When it comes to investing, we get so obsessed with finding the next hot stock, the next big thing. But what if I told you the real secret to great returns isn't out there in the market, but right here, in our own minds? Today, we're going to dig into the 7 virtues that really separate the good investors from the truly great ones.
But first, let me ask you something. When you think about the biggest risks out there, the things that can totally wreck your financial plans, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it a market crash? A bad earnings report? The real answer might surprise you.
Because so often, the biggest enemy we face as investors is the overwhelming pressure of the crowd. And, the emotional, sometimes irrational person staring back at us in the mirror. So how in the world do we fight these massive forces? Well, we do it by building up a very specific set of virtues.
Okay, let's start with part 1, the virtues of the mind. This is absolutely foundational, because before you can ever act the right way, you have to learn to think the right way. This is all about building that solid intellectual framework for success.
And it all kicks off with virtue number 1, curiosity. I love this inquisitive owl. It's perfect. See, the best investors aren't just sitting around waiting for tips. Nope, they are absolutely relentless learners.
So what does that actually look like? Well, a curious investor is always asking why. Why did that stock move? They read everything they can get their hands on. Sure, the financials, but also history, psychology, you name it. They're trying to understand the actual business, not just a ticker symbol on a screen. You have to remember that without that spark of curiosity, you'll never get to real valuable insight.
Okay, so once you've got that curiosity engine running, what's next? That brings us to our second virtue, skepticism. Now, this isn't about being a negative cynic, not at all. It's about having a healthy, protective instinct. Think of it as your personal shield against all the market hype and noise.
A skeptical investor just naturally questions things. They hear a great story about a company, and their first thought is, okay, show me the proof. They demand hard evidence, not just a good narrative. Their job, as they see it, is to constantly separate proven facts from hopeful opinions. And that healthy dose of skepticism, that's what protects your money.
And here's a perfect real-world example of why this is so critical. Something called analyst bias. Look, analysts aren't always the impartial referees we think they are. Their predictions can be swayed because they want to stay on good terms with the companies they cover. So the next time you hear a strong buy recommendation, your skepticism should kick in and say, okay, time to do my own homework. And that skepticism? It leads us directly to virtue number 3, independence. This is all about having the guts to think for yourself, especially when it feels like the entire world is running in the opposite direction. An independent thinker trusts their own research over what everyone else is saying. And let's be real, this could be tough. It means you have to be comfortable looking wrong for a while, maybe even seeing your portfolio lag the market for a bit. You know what the benchmarks are doing, but you're not a slave to them. At the end of the day, your conviction has to come from your analysis, nobody else's. And being independent is the perfect defense against this classic trap, herding behavior. It's that powerful, almost primal instinct to just follow the group. This is the behavior that's inflated countless market bubbles throughout history, from dot-com stocks to housing manias. An independent mind just stands back and lets the stampede go by. So, you've built the right mindset. You're curious, skeptical, and independent. Awesome. But that's only half the battle. Now we move to part 2, the virtues of character. This is all about turning those great thoughts into consistent actions, especially when the pressure is on. And this part starts with virtue number 4, humility. Here's a hard truth. The market could not care less about your ego. It is a powerful, unpredictable force that will always punish arrogance. Humility in action means you accept that the future is a giant question mark and that all forecasts are probably wrong. It means when you make a mistake, you own it, you learn from it, and you move on, fast. And crucially, it means you don't get greedy with leverage, because humility stops you from getting overconfident. You always have to respect the risks you can't even see yet. All right, next up is virtue number 5, discipline. You can have the smartest investing plan in the world, but if you don't have the discipline to execute it, it's just a piece of paper. A solid, repeatable process is always going to beat random gut feelings in the long run. So, in practice, discipline means you have a set of clear rules, and you actually stick to them. It means you rebalance your portfolio on a schedule instead of trying to guess the market's next move. And maybe most importantly, it's about keeping your emotions in check when the market is going completely haywire.
And that leads us to a virtue that is maybe the most powerful and yet most underrated of them all. Patience. I mean, this little snail says it all, right? Serious wealth isn't built overnight. Time is the single greatest ally an investor has.
A patient investor just gets it. They understand that the magic of compounding only really works its wonders over decades, not days. They accept that markets are going to be a roller coaster, that volatility is just the price of admission for getting good long-term returns. They develop this amazing skill of just tuning out the daily noise and letting their best investments do their thing for years and years. Okay, so we've covered the virtues of the mind and the virtues of character. But there's one last virtue that pulls everything together. It's the one that lets you finally take decisive action when it really, truly matters.
And that is virtue number 7, courage. But listen, this is not about blind faith or being a daredevil. This is earned courage. It's the deep conviction you feel only after you've done all the hard work demanded by the other 6 virtues.
It is so important to understand the difference here. Recklessness is acting on hype. Courage is acting on deep analysis. Recklessness chases returns no matter what. Courage is obsessed with managing risk. A reckless investor just ignores the downside, but a courageous one acts with conviction because they've already done their homework and understand the risks.
So here's the big takeaway. Becoming a great investor isn't about finding some secret formula or a magic algorithm. It's a journey. It's about mastering your own mind and your own actions. And here it is, the complete path all laid out. It starts with your mind, building that foundation of curiosity, skepticism, and independence. Then you build on that with character, humility, discipline, and patience. And it's only when all 6 of those are locked in place that you can finally, truly act with earned courage.
But, this isn't just a list to memorize. It's really a framework for improving yourself as an investor and, honestly, as a decision maker. So the final question isn't for me, it's for you. Looking at this path, which one of these virtues are you going to focus on first?